Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the massive quantum harmonic array, her dark eyes fixed on the swirling patterns of energy that danced across the laboratory's primary display. Something was wrong with the readings. The frequencies coming from the Centauri sector shouldn't have looked like this. They were too ordered, too precise to be natural phenomena. "Run the analysis again," she commanded, her voice steady despite the excitement building in her chest. The quantum computer hummed to life, its crystalline core pulsing with each calculation. The results appeared seconds later, unchanged from the previous 17 attempts. The other scientists in Earth's Quantum Harmonics Research Center had already gone home, leaving Sarah alone with her impossible readings. That's how she preferred it anyway. Sometimes the most significant discoveries came in the quiet moments between official research sessions. "Computer, overlay the pattern against known cosmic background radiation." The display shifted, highlighting the anomaly in stark relief. Where normal space produced random quantum fluctuations, this signal formed perfect geometric patterns, like a symphony written in the language of physics itself. Sarah's fingers flew across the haptic interface, isolating specific frequency bands. The pattern became clearer. It wasn't just ordered, it was communicating. Her heart raced as the implications hit her. After 15 years of searching for signs of intelligent life, she might have just stumbled upon something extraordinary. The lab's communication system chimed, startling her from her analysis. Dr. Chen, Director Matthew's hologram materialized beside her workstation, his expression grim. "We're picking up similar patterns across all our listening posts. The UN Security Council is convening an emergency session." Sarah nodded, already saving her data and gathering her tablet. "It's not random noise, Director. These patterns show clear signs of artificial origin. Whatever's creating them, it's intelligent." "That's what we're afraid of," Matthews replied. "Because in the last hour, the signals have started getting stronger. They're approaching Earth." The next 48 hours passed in a blur of emergency meetings, data analysis, and increasingly worried conversations among Earth's scientific and military leadership. Sarah barely slept, running simulation after simulation as the signals grew stronger. Then, on the morning of the third day, they arrived. They called themselves the Symphonians, though that was the closest human language could come to translating their true name. They appeared as beings of pure energy, their forms shifting in patterns that matched the frequencies Sarah had detected. Their ships, if they could be called that, were massive crystalline structures that seemed to sing with quantum harmonics. First contact should have been a moment of celebration, a testament to humanity's long journey to the stars. Instead, it nearly became our species' epitaph. The problem wasn't hostility. At least not initially. It was noise. To the Symphonians, whose entire civilization was built on perfect quantum harmonics, human technology was like nails on a cosmic chalkboard. Every radio wave, every quantum computer, every FTL drive created distortions in their crystalline perception of reality. "Your species is cosmic noise pollution," their first message stated, transmitted directly into the quantum computers Sarah had helped design. "Your discordant emissions threaten the very fabric of space-time." Sarah watched from the UN's Quantum Communication Center as the Symphonian representatives appeared before the Security Council. Their energy forms rippled with patterns she now recognized as indicators of extreme distress. Human technology was literally hurting them. "We cannot permit this cacophony to continue," the Symphonian speaker declared. "You have 30 Earth rotations to cease all quantum-based technologies and return to a pre-industrial state, or we will be forced to silence your world permanently." The room erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted about rights, about sovereignty, about the impossibility of the demand. Humanity had built its civilization on technology. Returning to a pre-industrial state would mean the death of billions. But Sarah remained quiet, her mind racing through quantum equations and harmonic patterns. She'd spent her career studying the music of the cosmos, the way quantum particles dance to universal rhythms. Where others saw an ultimatum, she saw a puzzle waiting to be solved. "Director Matthews," she whispered, her tablet already filling with preliminary calculations. "I need immediate access to the primary quantum array. I think I know how we might be able to speak their language." Matthews studied her for a moment, then nodded. They both knew that in situations like this, sometimes the craziest ideas were the only ones that worked. As Sarah hurried from the chamber, the arguments of politicians and military leaders faded behind her, replaced by the elegant mathematics of quantum harmonics. The Symphonians had given humanity 30 days to silence ourselves. Sarah intended to use that time to teach humanity how to sing. In her lab, surrounded by humming quantum processors and holographic displays, she began her work. The solution, she theorized, wasn't to stop using quantum technology. It was to make it harmonize with the natural frequencies the Symphonians used. If human technology was causing discord in the cosmic symphony, then perhaps it was time for humanity to learn some new music. As the first week of the ultimatum ticked by, Sarah barely left her laboratory. She worked until her vision blurred, fueled by coffee and the desperate knowledge that billions of lives depended on her success. The quantum harmonic array became her instrument, and the frequencies of space-time her sheet music. The breakthrough came on day 9, when she realized something profound about the Symphonian communications. They weren't just using quantum harmonics to communicate, they were weaving emotions into the very fabric of space-time. Their language wasn't just about information. It was about feeling, about the poetry of existence itself. As she stared at the new data, a smile slowly spread across her face. Because if there was one thing humans understood better than any advanced civilization they'd yet encountered, it was the power of emotion to transcend barriers. Perhaps the key to saving humanity wasn't in silencing our technology, but in teaching it to express our soul. Now she just had to figure out how to translate human passion into quantum harmony before the Symphonians decided to silence Earth's song forever. The quantum harmonic translator wasn't working, and Sarah had the burns on her hands to prove it. 17 days into humanity's 30-day deadline, the device she created to bridge the gap between human technology and Symphonian communication had once again overloaded, sending cascading waves of quantum energy through her laboratory. "You're pushing yourself too hard," Dr. James Rodriguez said, applying regenerative gel to her scalded palms. The medical bay's soft blue lighting made the exhaustion on his face even more apparent. Even quantum harmonics need to rest sometimes. Sarah flexed her fingers as the gel did its work, her mind already racing through potential modifications to the translator's containment field. "We don't have time for rest, James. The Symphonians are getting impatient. Did you see the latest readings from the lunar outpost?" James nodded grimly. The Symphonian fleet had grown to over 300 crystalline vessels, each one thrumming with enough energy to reduce Earth's surface to glass. Their presence was causing increasing disruption to human technology. Communications were becoming unreliable, quantum computers were experiencing cascading failures, and the global economy was starting to show signs of strain. "The military wants to launch a preemptive strike," James said quietly, securing the last of the bandages. "They think if they hit the fleet with everything we have, we might take out enough of them to force a negotiation." Sarah laughed, but there was no humor in it. That would be like throwing rocks at a tsunami. The Symphonians exist partially in quantum space. Conventional weapons would pass right through them. She stood, ignoring the protest from her tired muscles. "But maybe that's what we've been doing wrong with the translator too." James raised an eyebrow, following her as she strode back toward her lab. "What do you mean?" "We've been trying to match their frequencies exactly, to speak their language perfectly," Sarah explained, her voice gaining enthusiasm as the idea took shape. "But what if that's not what we need? What if we need to be more human about it?" The laboratory had been rebuilt after each failed test, the quantum arrays reconfigured and reinforced. Sarah moved to the central control platform, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. Human music isn't perfect. It's full of deliberate imperfections, Blue notes in jazz, bent notes in blues, the slight detuning that makes a chorus sound fuller. What if those imperfections are what give our music its soul? Understanding dawned on James's face. You want to introduce controlled imperfections into the quantum harmonics. Not imperfections, Sarah corrected, pulling up the bass frequency patterns of the symphonian communications. Humanity, our messiness, our passion, our ability to find beauty in chaos. She began making adjustments to the translator's core algorithms. Help me set up a test. Hours later, they were ready. The modified translator hummed softly, its crystalline core pulsing with a rhythm that somehow felt more organic than before. Sarah took a deep breath, then activated the device. The first few seconds were crucial. Previous attempts had failed almost immediately, the pure symphonian frequencies rejecting their artificial approximations. But this time, something was different. The quantum field stabilized, forming patterns that danced and shifted like auroras. "It's working," James whispered, afraid to break the moment. "Sarah, it's actually working." She didn't respond, too focused on fine-tuning the output. The patterns were becoming clearer, more structured. Where before they had tried to create perfect symphonian harmonics, now they were creating something new, a fusion of human emotion and quantum mathematics. The laboratory speakers came to life, translating the quantum frequencies into sound. It was like nothing they had ever heard before. Part symphony, part quantum equation, part pure emotion. It was the sound of humanity reaching across the void between species. Then, unexpectedly, something reached back. The quantum arrays lit up with incoming signals. The symphonians had noticed their transmission, but instead of the rejection they had faced before, these patterns showed signs of curiosity. "They're responding," Sarah breathed, her hands steady despite her excitement. "James, quick, help me configure the reception matrices." The next few minutes were intense as they worked to establish a stable two-way connection. When they finally succeeded, the message they received changed everything. "Your song. It is different." The symphonian communication resonated through the quantum field. "There is discord, yet also harmony. Complexity we had not considered." "Explain." Sarah stepped forward, her heart racing. This was the moment she had been working toward. "This is who we are," she transmitted back, infusing the quantum harmonics with all the emotion she could muster. "We are not perfect, but our imperfections make us whole. Let us show you." What followed was the most extraordinary exchange in human history. Through the quantum harmonics, Sarah and her team began sharing human music, everything from classical symphonies to indigenous songs, from jazz improvisations to electronic compositions. With each transmission, they included the emotional context, the cultural significance, the very human meaning behind the mathematics of music. The symphonians were fascinated. Where they had seen only noise before, they began to perceive patterns within patterns, meaning within chaos. Their responses became more nuanced, more willing to explore the possibility that different forms of harmony could coexist. But just as breakthrough seemed within reach, alarms blared throughout the facility. James rushed to check the long-range quantum sensors, his face paling at what he saw. "Sarah," he called out, his voice tight with fear. "There's something else out there. Something big. The symphonians, they're reacting to it too." On the primary display, a massive distortion was spreading across space, consuming both quantum and normal radiation in its path. It was like a void in reality itself, and it was heading straight for Earth. Sarah stared at the readings, her mind racing. They had just learned to communicate with one alien species, but it seemed the universe wasn't done testing humanity's ability to adapt. As she watched the void grow larger, she couldn't help but wonder, had they learned to sing together just in time to face a greater silence? They called them the Void Singers, though there was nothing melodious about them. They came from the spaces between spaces, entities that existed in the quantum foam itself, consuming energy and matter alike. Their very presence was an absence, a hungry silence that devoured everything in its path. Sarah watched the primary display with growing horror as the first Void Singer manifestation appeared in the outer solar system. It looked like a tear in reality itself, a moving anomaly that reduced Jupiter's largest moon to quantum static in seconds. They feed on harmonic energy. The Symphonian Elders transmission resonated through the quantum translator. Their crystalline vessel now orbited Earth alongside the human defense fleet, a swift change in priorities brought about by the greater threat. We have encountered them before, in the distant past. They are why we became so sensitive to discord. It attracts them. Like sharks sensing blood in the water, Sarah muttered, her fingers flying over the holographic controls as she adjusted the translator's frequencies. The Quantum Harmonics Lab had become the de facto command center for the joint human-Symphonian response team. But why are they here now? The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. James Rodriguez burst into the lab, his tablet displaying a complex series of calculations. "It's us," he said, breathing heavily. "The quantum translator. When we combined human emotions with Symphonian harmonics, we created something new, something powerful." The Symphonian Elders form rippled with patterns that the translator interpreted as grave concern. "Yes, you have created a new form of quantum resonance, one that bridges the gap between physical space and quantum reality." The Void Singer's hunger for such energy. Sarah felt the weight of responsibility settle over her like a lead blanket. Their breakthrough in communication had inadvertently attracted an ancient enemy. But as she studied the data streaming across her screens, a thought began to form. "If they're attracted to this specific resonance," she said slowly, "maybe we can use that." She turned to the Symphonian Elder. "You said your people encountered them before. How did you survive?" "We hid," the Elder responded. "We learned to dampen our harmonics, to exist in near silence until they passed." Their form shimmered with what Sarah had learned to recognize as frustration. But they always return, hunting for new sources of energy. James shook his head. "Hiding isn't an option for us. Human civilization depends on quantum technology now. We can't just shut everything down." He paused, looking at Sarah. "But you're thinking of something else, aren't you?" She nodded, already pulling up the quantum harmonic patterns they'd created. "The Void Singers feed on quantum resonance, but they've never encountered anything like what we created, the fusion of Symphonian precision and human emotion. What if, instead of hiding—" She smiled, the kind of smile that had preceded some of humanity's greatest breakthroughs and worst ideas. "We give them indigestion." The next few days were a blur of activity. As the Void Singers approached, consuming asteroids and space stations alike, Sarah led a team of human scientists and Symphonian harmonics experts in an ambitious project. They called it the Discord Cannon, though it was less a weapon and more an instrument of quantum chaos. "The theory is simple," Sarah explained to the combined Earth Defense Council and Symphonian leadership. "We know the Void Singers are attracted to harmonic energy, but they've evolved to consume it in its pure form. We're going to hit them with something they've never experienced, a quantum frequency modulated by the full spectrum of human emotion." "You want to give them feelings?" a general asked incredulously. "More like emotional overload," James clarified. "Think of it like trying to eat a ghost pepper when you're expecting vanilla ice cream. We're going to take everything that makes human music and emotion unique, our passion, our chaos, our ability to find beauty in imperfection, and amplify it through Symphonian quantum harmonics." The Symphonian Elders form pulsed with patterns that the translator struggled to interpret. "This is unprecedented. The energy required would be enormous. And the risk." They paused. "If it fails, it could attract even more Void Singers." Sarah met their gaze steadily. "Everything worth doing in human history has been unprecedented. It's kind of our specialty." The construction of the Discord Cannon pushed both human and Symphonian technology to its limits. They converted Earth's largest quantum computer facility into a harmony generator, Its crystalline processors realigned to produce the complex frequencies they needed. Symphonian vessels linked together in a massive array, their natural ability to manipulate quantum harmonics providing the precision required. But the heart of the weapon was purely human. A quantum core programmed with everything from symphony orchestras to rock concerts, from children's laughter to the roar of ocean waves. Every piece of music, every sound that carried human emotion, compressed into a quantum frequency that would make the very fabric of space-time sing with humanity's voice. The first test nearly destroyed the facility. The second cracked every piece of glass within a kilometer. The third made the Symphonians experience something they had never known before. They began to dance. "I think we're ready," Sarah said, watching the Void Singers consume another orbital station. They were less than 24 hours from Earth now. Though I have to admit, I never thought I'd try to save the world by giving cosmic horror entities an emotional breakdown. James squeezed her shoulder. "Well, if we're going to go out, we might as well go out singing." As they made their final preparations, Sarah couldn't help but smile at the irony. The Symphonians had initially threatened to silence humanity for being too noisy. Now that very noise might be the key to saving both their civilizations. They would soon discover if the universe was ready for humanity's ultimate performance, a symphony of chaos, hope, and defiance in the face of the void. The Discord cannon's final test firing lit up the quantum sensors like a supernova. Sarah watched the readings with a mixture of hope and trepidation as waves of modified harmonic energy rippled through spacetime. The massive array of human and Symphonian technology had been assembled in record time, a testament to what two species could accomplish when faced with extinction. "Energy output is stable," James reported from his station, his voice tight with concentration. "Quantum coherence at 97%. The emotional resonance patterns are holding." Around them, the combined command center hummed with activity. Human technicians worked alongside Symphonian energy forms, their previously discordant technologies now singing in harmony. On the main display, the Void Singer's approach was marked by an expanding zone of darkness that had already consumed Mars. "We're detecting a response," one of the Symphonian operators announced, their crystalline form flickering with excitement. "The nearest Void Singer entity is reacting to the test pulse." Sarah leaned forward, studying the data streams. The test burst had been a fraction of the cannon's full power, just enough to gauge the weapon's effectiveness without attracting too much attention. The nearest Void Singer had briefly paused its consumption of a Martian mining outpost, its void-like form rippling with what their sensors interpreted as confusion. "They've never encountered anything like this before," the Symphonian elder observed, their form pulsing with complex patterns. "The fusion of our harmonic precision with your emotional resonance, it disrupts their feeding patterns. Like trying to drink from a fire hose that's spraying rainbow-colored quantum coffee," James suggested, earning confused ripples from the Symphonians and tired chuckles from the humans. Sleep had become a luxury none of them could afford. Sarah adjusted the cannon's emotional matrix, fine-tuning the balance between various human experiences. They had loaded it with everything from first kisses to last goodbyes, from battlefield rage to meditation peace, from a parent's lullaby to a rock concert's roar. Each emotion was translated into quantum frequencies, amplified through Symphonian harmonics, and woven into a weapon unlike anything in known space. "The void entities are accelerating," announced Colonel Chen, Sarah's mother, who commanded Earth's quantum defense grid. "They'll reach lunar orbit in 6 hours." Sarah nodded, already calculating firing solutions. "Then we have 5 hours to perfect this thing." She turned to the assembled team. "Let's run the full power test." The next few hours were a blur of adjustments, calculations, and barely avoided catastrophes. At full power, the Discord cannon drew more energy than a small star, channeling it through crystals grown in zero gravity and processors cooled to near absolute zero. The human emotional content proved particularly tricky to maintain at high energy levels. Pure feelings tended to degrade into quantum noise when amplified too much. It's like trying to scream a whisper, Sarah explained to the Symphonian elder during their fourth attempt. We need to maintain the subtlety of the emotions while amplifying their power. The elder's form shimmered thoughtfully. Perhaps we have been approaching this wrong. They moved closer to the control interface. We Symphonians have always sought perfect harmony, pure frequencies. But human emotions are not pure, are they? Far from it, Sarah agreed, remembering the breakthrough that had first allowed them to communicate. They're messy, contradictory, beautiful in their imperfection. Then let us embrace that imperfection. The elder's form expanded, connecting directly with the canon's quantum matrix. We will provide the structure, the harmonic framework. But instead of trying to purify your emotions, let them remain as they are, complex, chaotic, alive. The fifth test changed everything. When they fired the cannon, the quantum harmonics didn't just carry human emotions. They amplified them while preserving their essential nature. The test pulse struck a small asteroid, and for a brief moment, the lifeless rock resonated with the full spectrum of human experience. The nearest void singer reacted violently, its void-like form contorting as it encountered something it couldn't simply consume. The entity actually retreated, pulling back from Mars as if stung. Holy shit, James breathed, staring at the readings. It worked. It actually worked. But their celebration was cut short by new alarms. The void entities had noticed the test, and they were responding. The main body of their force changed course, accelerating toward Earth even faster. They're afraid, the elder realized, their form flickering with revelation. They recognize this energy as a threat, something that could harm them. They mean to strike before we can fully deploy the weapon. Colonel Chen's voice cut through the rising tension. Multiple void manifestations detected entering lunar orbit. They're not waiting anymore. Sarah looked at the tactical display, her mind racing through calculations. The Discord cannon wasn't fully tested. The emotional matrices weren't completely stable, and they had no idea if it would work at the scale they needed. But they were out of time. Begin full power-up sequence, she ordered, her voice steady despite the fear churning in her gut. Alert all Earth defense forces and Symphonian vessels. This is going to get messy. As the massive weapon hummed to life, drawing power from every quantum reactor on Earth, Sarah thought about the journey that had brought them here. A month ago, humans and Symphonians had been on the brink of conflict over the nature of harmony itself. Now they stood together, preparing to weaponize the very chaos that had once divided them. The void entities crossed the lunar orbit, their non-existence tearing holes in reality itself. Earth's combined defense fleet moved to intercept, but conventional weapons passed harmlessly through the quantum anomalies. The first void manifestation reached a defense satellite, and the structure simply ceased to exist, reduced to its component quantum frequencies and devoured. Discord cannon at 80% power, James reported, his hands dancing across the controls. Emotional matrices holding steady. Symphonian harmonic framework is stable. Sarah took a deep breath, watching the approaching wave of darkness. They would only get one shot at this. If they failed, Earth would fall silent forever. Just another dead note in the cosmic symphony. All channels open, she commanded. I want every human on Earth broadcasting. Every song, every shout, every whisper, give me everything. If we're going to do this, we do it together. As the void entities entered firing range, humanity prepared to show the universe why you should never underestimate a species that had turned noise into music, chaos into art, and discord into harmony. The Discord cannon reached full power, and Sarah's hand hovered over the firing control. In that moment, she felt the weight of two civilizations resting on her shoulders, and she smiled. Because if there was one thing humans did better than anyone else in the known universe, it was making themselves heard. The Discord cannon fired, and for one eternal moment, the universe sang with humanity's voice. Every emotion, every song, every cry and whisper and shout that made humans what they were burst forth in a massive wave of quantum harmonics. The Symphonian array amplified and focused the energy, their crystalline technology providing structure to the beautiful chaos of human experience. The resulting beam was visible even to the naked eye, a rainbow of impossible colors that rippled with the full spectrum of human consciousness. The void entities met it head-on, their reality-consuming presence colliding with the combined might of two civilizations' technology and humanity's raw emotional power. For a heartbeat, nothing seemed to happen. Then the void began to scream. Multiple quantum disruptions detected, James called out, his voice barely audible over the cannon's deep thrum. The void entities, they're trying to consume the energy, but they can't process it. Sarah watched the main display, her hand steady on the control interface as she modulated the emotional frequencies. The nearest void entity writhed as it encountered joy and sorrow, love and rage, hope and fear, all amplified to cosmic scales. Where before it had simply devoured energy, now it was forced to experience it. Their quantum structure is destabilizing, one of the Symphonian operators reported, their crystalline form vibrating with excitement. The emotional resonance is causing cascade failures in their consumption matrices. But the void entities weren't retreating. Instead, they pressed forward, pushing against the Discord cannon's beam with desperate intensity. Warning lights flashed across the control room as the weapon's power systems strained under the load. Power fluctuation in the main emotional matrix, James warned. We're losing coherence in the upper harmonic bands. Sarah gritted her teeth, making rapid adjustments. Reroute power from the secondary arrays. Keep the core emotional frequencies stable at all costs. She turned to the Symphonian elder. We need more power to the harmonic framework. The elder's form pulsed with determination. All Symphonian vessels, synchronize your quantum cores with the human emotion carrier wave. Full power to harmonic amplification. Across Earth orbit, the crystalline ships of the Symphonian fleet began to glow with increasing intensity. Their natural ability to manipulate quantum harmonics added new layers of complexity to the Discord cannon's output. The beam brightened, its colors shifting through spectrums that human eyes had never seen before. But the void entities still came on. For every one that destabilized and collapsed back into their own dimension, two more pushed forward. They had reached the outer defense perimeter now, their presence reducing automated satellites to quantum static. It's not enough, Colonel Chen announced, her tactical display showing the void entities' inexorable advance. At this rate, they'll reach Earth in less than 10 minutes. Sarah stared at the readings, her mind racing. The Discord cannon was working. The void entities couldn't properly consume its energy, but they were adapting, learning to push through the emotional overload. They needed something more, something the void entities couldn't possibly prepare for. Then she had it. James, she called out, already reconfiguring the emotional matrix. Remember what you said about the Symphonians dancing during the test, about how our emotions affected them in ways they'd never experienced. He nodded, understanding dawning on his face. You want to. We've been hitting the void entities with human emotions, Sarah explained, her fingers flying over the controls. But what if we add Symphonian emotions too? Their experience of harmony, their perception of quantum beauty, combined with our chaos. The elder's form rippled with what might have been surprise. We do not experience emotions as you do. Our responses are based on harmonic resonance patterns. Exactly, Sarah interrupted. Your species experiences reality through quantum harmonics. You feel the music of the universe in ways we can only imagine. If we combine that with human emotions. She didn't need to finish the thought. The elder was already moving, their form connecting directly with the Discord cannon's control systems. Throughout the fleet, other Symphonians followed suit, adding their unique perception of reality to the weapon's output. The effect was immediate and stunning. The Discord cannon's beam transformed, becoming something that defied description. Human emotion and Symphonian quantum perception merged and multiplied, creating patterns of energy that shouldn't have been possible in normal spacetime. The void entities didn't just scream this time, they shattered. Their reality-consuming forms couldn't handle the combination of human chaos and symphonian harmony. One by one, they broke apart, their quantum structures collapsing as they were forced to experience not just emotion, but the very music of existence itself. "They're retreating," James announced, his voice hoarse with excitement. "The remaining void entities are pulling back, trying to escape the effect." Sarah didn't let up. She pushed more power through the emotional matrix, combining every scrap of human feeling with the symphonian's cosmic symphony. The beam caught the fleeing void entities, forcing them to experience the full spectrum of two species' combined consciousness. The battle lasted another 3 hours, but the outcome was never again in doubt. When it was over, when the last void entity had either collapsed or flowed back to whatever dimension they called home, and strange silence fell over the earth. Then, slowly, that silence was filled with music. All across the planet, humans began to sing. Not in harmony, not in any organized way, but in the beautifully chaotic manner that had just helped save 2 civilizations. And to everyone's amazement, the symphonians joined in, their quantum harmonics adding new depths to humanity's celebrations. "I think," the elder said, their form glowing with patterns that the translator interpreted as joy, "we may have been wrong about harmony. True music isn't about perfection. It's about finding beauty in the spaces between the notes." Sarah smiled, watching Earth's cities light up below them. "And sometimes," she added, "the most powerful songs are the ones we sing together." In the years that followed, humans and symphonians would build on what they had created. The Discord Cannon was converted into the first of many harmony generators, devices that helped the 2 species share their unique perspectives on reality. Earth's quantum technology evolved, incorporating symphonian principles to create something entirely new, tools that worked in concert with the universe instead of forcing it into submission. But more importantly, both species learned to appreciate what the other brought to the cosmic symphony. Humans learned to hear the subtle harmonics that the symphonians had always known, while the symphonians discovered the beauty in jazz improvisation and rock concerts. And if the void entities ever returned, they would find not 2 separate civilizations, but a single chorus, ready to remind them that sometimes the most powerful force in the universe isn't perfect harmony or pure chaos, but the beautiful dance between the two. After all, as humanity had proved once again, the best songs are the ones that break all the rules.